So do you want to get footage of me washing the apples or something? I'm wondering if that blind should be closed. Oh, did I just get 7? I thought I got 8 of these. Oh, that's tragic. I intended to get 8. So I will dry these off just in case the water has any effect, but I don't think it will. And then I need to evacuate the air out of the glove box. So do you know the math on this? So this is about, how big would you say that is? Cubic feet? 4? Okay, 3 or 4. So argon, so it says 10 psi or 50. Let's see. The argon gauge is right here, so it'll probably take a few minutes to evacuate. But I need to get the apples I'm going to cut in there first. So yeah, you have to think ahead. Everything that's going to go in there needs to be in there first. So the apples are essentially dried, or at least dried enough. I'm assuming any excess water in there will have only a negligible effect. Okay, so I think for the purposes of this portion of the experiment, the cutting board, knife, and apples can be placed in the bag, and I do need to label some, the glove box, and I do need to label some bags. So this is quite a beefy seal, but it is not without its drawbacks. There are some mitigating factors, some issues with the seal that make it imperfect, but it does seal well enough for our purposes. So I will be cutting the apples inside the glove box and storing them in these high quality, these are supposed to be Microsoft, these are Microsoft safe bags. No, these are microwave safe bags. And they should hold enough of an air seal to retain oxygen, although oxygen is a fairly small molecule and it may be able to transverse the plastic boundary. So let me label these bags. So we'll say apples argon. And today's date is what, the 7th of January, 2023. Now, some of these apples are not going to be juiced. They will simply be stored in the bag to test their longevity. Now, there's a little bit of a glitch on that bag, so that's going to have to be a juiced one, because I don't know if I trust how well that's going to seal. Now, we will load into the glove box a cutting board. Now, there's a 110 outlet in here to run the juicing machine, and sadly that is kind of getting in the way, but should be fine. And we will load all of our apples. In fact, I've got a beaker in here that, no, it's not big enough to hold. So that is a total of 7 apples. And our knife, which this is a new knife. It's fairly sharp, so it should be very careful. Don't want to puncture anything, that would suck. Now hopefully this will seal. And sometimes you have to recenter these so they don't pop off. Okay, that should be good. Come around the other side and seal the other side. Okay. So I will now proceed to pressurize the glove box. So I've got 2 ball valves on here. This will allow argon to flow into the glove box. And this is to exhaust out the excess air present in the glove box. And we will let this run for a brief period of time, about maybe 5-ish minutes. Now this is very sensitive. If you turn it on too much, you'll get excess gas coming out of this safety valve. So just very slowly. Okay, and this flow regulator so that's about 20, I think that's actually 2 psi. I'm not really sure. I'm fairly new to this. Do you know what that is? And this latex tube is flowing out the window. Now normally I would have a splint, but sadly I do not have any splints to test for the presence of oxygen. However, you can see the gloves are already beginning to try to push themselves out of the glove box, indicating a higher pressure inside the glove box. We'll just give that a minute to sort of do its thing. And then I will turn the pressure down, but not completely off. Now in a normal glove box, these usually come all the way out, but they can afford a lot more argon than I can. Yeah, that's really... that might be a little bit too much. I'm just afraid it'll go pop. That'll be fun. Okay, I'm going to partially close the upper. So closing it entirely, that's dangerous. So we're not going to do that. But we will partially close this. This will ensure any oxygen cannot enter into the glove box and will be forced out if there are fails along the seal. And I'll leave this fairly low. Looks like about 12. And we'll proceed to cut the apples. We're not losing pressure, are we? I think we're fine. This is harder to get my hands in here than I was anticipating. Come on. Come on. Okay, good. So, hopefully this overly sharp knife does not destroy anything. Now, I'm immediately curious. Now that's a bruise, so that's not browning. But I don't... Now, it usually takes a moment. Does it look like that's browning at all? We'll turn that up just a little bit. Can you turn that up to maybe 17 or 16? Very slight turn plus on that flow regulator. Yes. That's probably good. I can't tell if that's turning brown or not. Maybe you can open that ball valve all the way. So yeah, straight up is on fully. It does look like it's browning a little bit. Maybe there's still some air in there. So we'll give it a little bit more time. Probably fine. Yeah, I think that was just this one did brown a little bit, but it's really not that bad. Gotta be careful with this knife. Don't cut my glove. See, some of these apples are very mean, and they don't like being cut. There. Now, I need to inspect these bags and make sure I didn't accidentally puncture any of them. No. It's fine. No, the bags are fine. You see any other apples? Oh, there's another. Okay, so the bags are now filled. One of these is going to be a test article, probably this one, just to have apple slices in a bag in Argon, just to see what happens with them. These other two will go into the juicing machine, so we'll get to that point next. Very, very gently, because Argon is heavier than air, so any argon that's in there should, I mean, as I lift the lid, there'll be a pressure difference and it will go a little bit, but if I lift it very slowly, oh, yeah, I'm smelling apple, which means I'm breathing in argon. Just give it a second to. I don't know. That is sealing. I don't know. What do you think?
Right.
I think what happened is they browned a little tiny bit because there is oxygen in the apple. And I think when the enzyme is exposed to light, it starts doing stuff. So there is some oxygen in the apple. The enzyme that turns the apple brown does become activated because it becomes exposed to light, I think. And so it will brown a little bit, but I think this is as much as it's going to brown. So, okay, this will be the test article. This is the one that will simply be stored. I'm going to store this and the control at room temperature. So this is going to go somewhere. I'm not sure. We'll just put it over here for now. But it is imperative that this bag remain sealed. In the meantime, we'll get the glove box ready for the other portion of the experiment. Somehow I'm going to have to reach through there. Hopefully it won't be too hard to do. Is it getting cold in there? Yeah, the ice packs are cooling it down. Hopefully the juice man will not overheat. Ugh. Come on. There. No. There. Just want to make sure that these are centered. So hopefully the fan will blow the air on these ice packs, which are intended to act as a sort of intercooler. Well, here goes nothing. Does it look like it's turning brown? Some of these apples were not cut small enough. Don't you want to see this through to its exciting conclusion?
Probably better.
I'm almost done. Okay, that is sealed. Okay, success. I have successfully filled 20 test tubes. And the beaker still has some juice in it. That's actually more red than brown. But I believe that the experiment was a success. So I'm going to depressurize the glove box. Not that there was much pressure in there anyway. Okay, hopefully we don't suffocate on argon. This was much more of a challenge than I had anticipated. Okay. Well, that's a mess.
Can we open this?
No. I'd like to try some of this. That is very fresh tasting. Very fresh. Now, by now, that would be a very noticeable shade of brown, but it's actually more red than brown. Now, the top layers are going to brown pretty quick because it's now exposed to air. Some of these caps did not fully seal. I was noticing I was having a hard time putting some of them on in there. like number 16, if I can find it. Yeah, see how that one's kind of bent on there? Gosh, that makes me mad. That's just... Okay, 16 is a failed attempt. So 16 was a failure. And this I'm just going to go ahead and drink. So I'm just going to go ahead and drink that. Wow! Didn't quite come out the way that I was hoping. Didn't get on my microphone, thank goodness. It tastes really good because it's separated. Man, that's... Well, interesting. The problem is this drink probably has a lot of argon gas bubbles in it. All right, well, interesting. Okay, well, I would say that that was mostly a success. So this is the control set for the apple juice experiment. So I have more apples in here that I will then wash, and I'll produce a bag of apples similar to this. And I will also produce juice. And it's been a few hours since we produced our argon samples, and they're looking pretty good still. They're not necessarily browning. There is some stuff on the top and bottom. And I'm wondering if the volume of argon in the glove box was high enough. I'm not really sure. I'll have to get a second opinion on that. So anyway, I'll wash these and we'll get to the point of making more juice. So I'll likewise dry these ones like I did for the argon portion of the experiment. And my apologies for performing the argon portion first. I had help for that one, but I sadly do not have help for this portion of the experiment. So I figured I had to do that one first. And some people consider this to be late. This is like, I wake up at 9 p.m., right? No, just kidding. Now, sadly, sample 16 of the argon version, these look like really, really cheap test tubes. And for some reason, when I was putting them on in the actual glove box, it was very difficult to get these lids on, and it kind of went on funny. Some of them didn't go on nice and straight, so I hope that doesn't affect, I mean, it's really hard to tell on camera, but that lid is tilted. And I'm hoping it's not, and I can't force that down anymore, so I'm hoping air didn't get in there, but I don't know. What? Get my dates right. Okay, that's not going to provide a very objective sample. Looks like this apple got bruised. So we will toss that one aside. These are already browning slightly, but compared to that, that's been sitting in there for several hours now. Some of these are browning a little bit. So now we'll take our test tube holder and we will. So these are the non-refrigerated argon samples here, but we're going to go ahead and just put these refrigerated and non-refrigerated air samples on here just to hold them for now. And we have pipettes. We will pipette out. Now, one mistake I think I made with the argon is that I wasn't dipping the pipette down deep enough. There's a little bit of a froth. I don't know if you could see it previously in the video, but there's a froth that forms on top of the juice, and I should have dipped the pipette clear down into the juice and then gotten the sample. I was doing that for the most part. Like, I mean, you see how lush sample 15 is, but I'll be more careful this time. Okay, so here goes. Hopefully the juice won't splatter out the edge. Okay, that might be sufficient. Yeah, that already has a browner sheen than the argon sample, so it must have been working. Yeah, that's already browner. So, you know, I guess we're proving. Okay, pipette. So I'm going to go down below the froth, collect a sample, approximately, ooh, that's going to feed air into it. Much easier to put the lid on, or the cap on. Now these came out very red. I'm not sure why they came out so red. If somebody out there knows why the argon samples came out so red, because it was like that in the beaker. Yeah, it's getting a little bit red. Maybe it just has to settle. So when I was juicing that in the glove box, it did settle for a little while. It's a little bit browner than this, but barely. It's actually almost yellow. Okay, well here's our first. Probably should have done this in order here. These air samples are noticeably yellower. So the result is absolutely not zero. There is very much a visual difference between the two. So these are yellow. These are red. That's very curious. Okay, let me grab the refrigerated ones. ones are supposed to be refrigerated. So yeah, I guess we'll just put them on this side here. That is interesting. There is an immediate difference with how those look. Huh. These are browning in here. These have browned quite a bit, even though they're in the argon. Now it's possible that oxygen is able to get through this bag. I'm not sure how well this bag seals. But the juice itself tells all. This pinkish color versus this yellow, that is a huge difference. And all of the argon samples exhibit a pinkish color. Even the ones where the cap didn't go on straight. Like all these, the caps went on nice because I was here and it was easy to manipulate, but huh. Okay. Alrighty. Well, we have at least a sort of de facto conclusion that juicing apples in argon will yield at least a different colored drink. Whether there's a better longevity or not remains to be seen. But that stark of a contrast already is pretty telling. So maybe there's some validity to this. All right, we'll take a look at these probably every 24 to 48 hours to see how they're doing, and we'll go from there. So here are the apples that were in argon that were refrigerated, and they have fared pretty well. Again, they do have this appearance of being a little bit more beat up, but they're doing pretty good. The non-refrigerated argon apples, I mean, they got mold on them. I think it's because this bag may be a little bit porous, but they have been in there for, I guess, 2 weeks now. So the other non-argon apples that were non-refrigerated, I had to throw those away because they were just getting too disgusting. So the refrigerated open air apples are looking pretty good. Again, I don't know what it is, they just don't look as beat up as the argon ones, but I guarantee you, I don't know, that one's not looking too good. I wouldn't want to eat these. I wouldn't want to eat either of them after 2 weeks. But so refrigeration did make a difference. Quite a substantial one, actually. Now the juice samples, these ones are looking about the same now. You can see the colors are pretty much the same. Just even looking at it with my own eyes, yeah, it's almost the same. There is a very, very slight I don't think it's showing up on the camera, but the difference in coloration is extremely slight. This one is ever so slightly more pinkish. Like, you know, if you were thinking of using Photoshop or something and sliding your color sliders like HSV, it would be slightly like one peg over more toward the red side on the argon ones. But anyway, so yeah, these ones look like they fared about the same. Again, these seals on here seem to be holding up pretty well on these ones. You know, there's a really clear argon one and a, where's it? Okay, that's a clear air one. Those are basically the same. Well, I think the experiment shows that initially the Argon produced apple juice was of higher quality, but then after 2 weeks, they basically looked the same. If I can get this thing to focus. Yeah, it's not going to want to focus. It's just not. Anyway, the point is they, by now, 2 weeks later, look the same. The open air ones look about the same as well. So the Argon, the non-refrigerated ones look about the same as well. So the Argon, these have almost so these look the same way that the open air apple juice looked the moment it was juiced. So they don't have that pinkish, reddish pinkish appearance in the juice anymore. These, honestly, by now, I would say that this is slightly oranger. This is more of a, dare I say, kind of a urine-ish type color. Well, no, they're about the same. They're about the same. Now, interestingly, there is some mold in the tops of these, but it seems to be on the outside of, there's a little rubber seal in there. Basically looks like this. It's like an O-ring type thing. And it goes on the inside of these caps. And around the outside perimeter, there appears to be mold. But you can see in here, there's mold on the inside perimeter on the open air ones. So, you know, there is some benefit to using Argon. But 2 weeks later, refrigerated or unrefrigerated, the coloration seems to be about the same. Now, the experiment does need to be repeated because I don't think that I had evacuated enough of the air out of the glove box. Again, this was just a trial run to see if it would even work. And initially, absolutely, there was a difference between the two. So this experiment does need to be repeated. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I have no idea what happened here, but 14 appears to have failed. I came home one day and the cap was off. And I was looking for the cap and it was all the way down here on the floor underneath my computer seat. And that means it must have blown off and, you know, landed there, which is disturbing. I have no idea what would have made it blow off. It was building up a lot of ethylene or something in there. And the cap failed. I'd hate to open these. They might go, you know, when you open them because maybe there's pressure in there. Oh yeah, and the bottom of 20 is sticky. So I don't know if you can see it in there. There's a little bit of juice that must have come out of 14. And now 20 is like sticky when I put it down. There's and almost a rubberiness to it trying to take it off. So anyway, this will be my last observation before I toss this stuff. It does need further review. Again, this top matter, can't get this thing to focus. This top matter here on these, it's got kind of a deep orangish brownish color. See if I can find, oh, here's one. Oh yeah, you can see the mold in that. This is the refrigerated open air, looks like number 21. So yeah, definitely there is a difference. Okay, this one has a little bit of mold. So this is an Argon sample with some mold in it. Okay, interesting. Oh yeah, a lot of mold on that one. So the experiment will need to be repeated. That's just interesting how after 2 weeks they look almost exactly the same. I'm hoping that air didn't get in there. Because these ones, there just is not as much mold on these open air ones on the inside as there is on these, these Argon ones as there is. So when I say open air, what I mean is non-refrigerated, even though these are the open air samples. Yeah, there's mold spots floating on top of these ones. These ones not really, so I don't know what's going on. Maybe I wasn't as careful when I was sealing these inside the glove box, the ones that were destined to be refrigerated. Well, again, the experiment will need to be repeated at some future time. I'm going to have to get some more Argon, but I think for now that's that. So I will have to produce a video compiling all this, and I'll keep you posted. Okay, sadly I didn't record 15, but you can see those bubbles in there. That's very effervescent, and it was a very violent opening. Let's see what 20 does. Oh yeah. Wow. Dang. Yeah, these Argon ones, these non-refrigerated Argon apple juice samples. Oh man, that just, that smells like the drunkard down the street. You know, it smells like an open beer bottle or something. Oh, man, look at that. Ugh. Yeah, see, some of these were very difficult to, I guess they did seal though, so that's good. A little bit of mold in there. That is incredible. Stupid seal. At least it's sealed though. It was so hard to put those caps on in the glove box. I don't know if I dare try a taste of this, but that one wasn't. Oh man, it's bubbling. Oh man. It's like opening a bottle of champagne or something. Oh! Oh! Oh, the seal blew off on that one. Dang. Yeah, these little rubber O-rings. Yeah, it totally smells alcoholic. Okay, let's try the air ones. These ones are probably going to be gross. Yeah, these ones are not the same, not even close. Yeah, they don't smell as fruity. Well, if anything, I've come up with a way of making alcoholic apple juice. Oh, that didn't even seal. Oh, look at all that mold in there. Anyway, let me try the refrigerated ones. Okay, here's number one. This is Argon refrigerated. I don't think that's sealed very well. That actually smells like apple juice. Yeah. So I think they've got to be at room temperature for the yeast to start forming alcohol. Okay. And I bet you the air ones will probably have a similar result. Yeah, it just smells like apple juice, although there is mold in there, which is kind of gross. Yeah, the Argon ones didn't seem to mold. But the air ones, okay, that one had a little bit. Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, so the Argon ones are quite a bit more pungent. They really do smell like some kind of an alcoholic cider. Interesting. Okay. So if you want to make an alcoholic apple juice using a juicing machine, you can do it in Argon, and you can then seal it for 2 weeks, and then you might have something that's alcoholic come out. There's very little mold, if any, in these. I'm too afraid to taste any of these, though. But they are effervescent and still bubbling in there. Is this one still bubbling? Yeah, it's still bubbling too. I bet you it did make an alcoholic drink. Okay, well, cool.